Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Alexis Davis, and I'm the social media manager here at RSDSA. I'm joined by Jim Broach, the Executive Vice President and Director of RSDSA, and Becky Curtis, a National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, who will speak to us about neuroplasticity, phantom limb pain, pain coaching, and more. In the summer of 2005, a violent work-related rollover car accident in Montana's remote Big Hole Valley caused a C4 spinal cord injury that nearly took Becky's life. After the fight to stay alive and months of recovery from physical injuries, she began suffering excruciating, burning nerve pain, as I'm sure you all are familiar with. As the chronic central pain reached its peak 2 days later, she faced the hopelessness of living the rest of her life in constant horrific pain. Narcotics soon lost their effectiveness and made coping more difficult. Becky went through a pain clinic where she learned pain was an experience she could improve. She continued to research pain and collaborate with her medical specialists. But she recognized the piece that was missing for most people in pain: ongoing support and learning how to personally manage pain. She developed the program, Take Courage Coaching, to help people in pain achieve the skills she used. Pain management coaching is an emerging health profession that partners with clients to achieve their chosen goals. It is practiced from a biopsychosocial perspective, viewing each person as intrinsically whole and the ultimate expert in the healing journey. Becky has presented her coaching case studies and data at the TCC program at state and international conferences, such as Pain Week, and I know we are all familiar with Pain Week. Her presentations are sought by physician groups, caregivers, and payer groups. And she has trained groups, including providers at Vanderbilt Center for Health and Wellness at Vanderbilt Medical Center, to incorporate pain-specific coaching into patient care. Becky is a recipient of the 2016 Workers' Injury Law and Advocacy Group Beacon Award, lighting the way for the rights of injured workers, and was a 2015 Magna Comp Laude winner. Now, please remember that while the information shared here tonight is helpful, please remember to consult your physician for personalized medical advice. Now, before we turn it over to Becky, Jim just wanted to see if you have any announcements.
I wanted to say hello to all my fellow veterans who are from the Marine Corps or in the active duty right now. It's Marine Corps birthday, tomorrow's Veterans Day. That's very important. And Alexis, I just want to encourage people if they wanted to do a 2-minute video, that we're still collecting them for CRPS Awareness Month. And we're also, for people who have passed in the CRPS community, we're having a memorial too. And we encourage people to send us some stories of people who have passed. And I'm really excited for Becky to come. She's coming from, you are in Utah tonight? Or?
I am, yes, Utah.
So it's still early there, and we're excited to have her. And I think she has a fabulous story. And take it away, Becky.
Thank you, Jim. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm glad it's early because I struggle with having any kind of deep thoughts later in the day, as some of you with chronic pain will understand. Okay, I'm going to screen share, and let me see this. Sorry here, I gotta, okay, so I'm really glad to be here with this community. I know this community has a lot of pain and has a lot of the same kinds of struggles that I have struggled with in the past and still struggle with. But anyway, 14 miles from Wisdom, things I learned by accident. My accident happened literally right underneath a sign that said Wisdom 14 miles. Wisdom, Montana is a beautiful place. We were out in the middle of nowhere. My right tire, my left tire hit the gravel on the right side of the road. And as you can see, I rolled over 10 times. And when everything came to a stop, I knew that I had broken my neck. I couldn't feel anything from the neck down. We were traveling in 2 cars that day. My husband and my 17-year-old son and my 7-year-old daughter were in the car right in front of me. And my 14-year-old son, Spencer, was in the seat next to me. And my husband saw the whole thing in the rear view mirror. He didn't expect to find anybody alive. As you can see, this is a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Like I said, I knew I'd broken my neck right from the very beginning. They took me to a trauma center in Butte, Montana, where a really wonderful neurosurgeon was on duty that night. It was a Sunday night, it was Father's Day, and they got me right in and took me into surgery, and I had what's called a burst fracture. That vertebrae had burst and it had cut into half my spinal cord. I have what's called Brown-Sequard syndrome. So my spinal cord, a spinal cord is as big around as your pinky, and my spinal cord wasn't severed. It was very damaged and cut halfway through, but it wasn't cut all the way through. So as you can see my hand moving. If my spinal cord would have been severed, everything from C4 down wouldn't be able to, would be paralyzed. But I have movement on my right side. It looks normal, but on my right side, I can't feel hot or cold, sharp or dull. My left side, I have, as you can see, I have spasticity and hypersensitivity on my left side and partial paralysis. And so I went into the hospital there in Butte. And while I was in the hospital, they took very good care of me. It was a really difficult time, but one morning, once they took the tubes out, I had, this is not my doctor, this is a stock photo. But I had a ventilator. And so once they took the ventilator tubes out, I was able to ask my doctor a question that I'd been really wondering for a long time, or for those days that I'd been laying there not able to talk. And I asked him, I said, what's my prognosis? And he looked at me very much like this doctor in the stock photo, and he said, well, you'll never be normal. I don't know why that was so painful to me, but sometimes our diagnoses can be painful. And those were true words, weren't they? He was right. I'm not normal. I have pins and needles from the neck down. So like when your hand falls asleep, take that times 10, and I have that everywhere from the neck down. I have burning nerve pain from the neck down. I have spasticity and pain that comes with having spasticity on one side, not on the other. So this doctor was right. You know, normal was not going to be something that I am. But somehow I wasn't satisfied with that answer. That answer made me cry. But the next day, his partner came in, and this is the real doctor. This is Dr. Pete Serini. And I was able to ask him, what's my prognosis? And he just looked at me and he smiled and he said, you're going to walk again. So right at that point, I had a choice on what I was going to focus on. Was I going to focus on the first doctor's words? Maybe some of you have heard words like, you have the worst pain known to man. Or, you know, this is something you're always going to have. This is going to debilitate you, and you really won't be able to live a good, normal life. So I had a choice on what I was going to listen to. You'll never be normal, or you're going to walk again, focusing on the function. So here's a little video of part of my recovery. I had to work really hard to get function back. And as you can see, I had lots of good support during this time. I had a few people like the you'll never be normal doctor, but most of the people that were surrounding me were good and supportive, and they were wonderful. And so I went home after rehab, and I had that choice. That choice whether I was going to focus on you'll never be normal, or whether I was going to focus on really getting my function back as much as I could. So I want to tell you a little bit about some of the things that I learned. I told you that I have burning nerve pain. I didn't have that right away. I had the pins and needles. I had the electrical pain down my left side. I had the pain that comes from having spasticity on one side and not on the other. But 2 years after my accident, I developed burning nerve pain. Now, this was something that I was not expecting. And I remember just feeling like I could live with the other stuff, the pins and needles and the electrical pain, but this burning nerve pain inside and out, nobody should have to live like this. And that's how I felt. And I tried all kinds of different medications. By the time the medication is high enough to do anything about my central nerve pain, I was not functioning. I was crying all the time. I wasn't sleeping at night. I stopped exercising because everything hurt. And I remember a car trip from California, from our house in Montana to California to visit my uncle and aunt. And we would drive for about 40 minutes, maybe sometimes an hour. And I'd get out in the grass and I would cry because every bump in the road caused fresh burning for me. And we got there and my husband decided that he better fly me home because it was a miserable trip for everybody. So we tried all the different kinds of medications and none of that was working. So finally my insurance company sent me to a functional restoration program where I learned that pain is an experience and it's 100% of the time processed in the brain. This picture that you're seeing right now is a picture of the 9 areas of the brain that process pain. It's a graphic of the 9 areas of the brain that process pain. And when you have pain, it's really hard, very difficult to focus on anything else. So for me, I was at that point in my life, I was laying in a chair and I was just thinking about my pain 24/7. And anybody who called me, they would ask me about my pain. My family was asking me about my pain. Everybody had looks of pity on their faces when they would see me, when they would talk to me. Pain was the driver and I was in the trunk. And this is a graphic of what happens in the brain when we focus on pain. I want you to, okay, this is slide number 1. See those 9 areas of the brain. I'm going to do that again. They go from this, that's a normal, to this. It increases up to 25% of the cells in those 9 areas increase as we focus on something. We know that what we focus on, we empower and enlarge, and that's what happens with pain. Just like when we learn to drive or we learn a second language, if we really focus on learning a second language, that is, a lot of us learned a language in high school and we haven't used it since. And so we also know that what we don't use, we lose, right? So that language that we learned in high school, if we haven't practiced it, it's probably not so good. But pain is loud. It's really, really loud. And it's really hard to focus on anything else. So as we're laying there in that recliner, as I was laying in that recliner, I was thinking about nothing but the pain. And then people ask you questions like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your pain? And what does that do? That makes me think, how is my pain? Oh, it's terrible. And so I am, again, learning pain as I do that. So like I said, we know that what we focus on, we empower and enlarge. And pain can just, if you talk to most people who have chronic pain, you'll hear things like, it just gets worse and worse. And those are the kinds of things that I would tell my doctor. It just keeps getting worse. I don't think I can live like this. This is untenable. I don't think any person should have to live through this. And at that time, there were several things that I thought would be helpful to me, but my providers said no. And I want to just say that I'm very grateful for those. There is one medication that does turn down this central nerve pain for me, and it's Valium. And I told my doctor, I said, you know, those Valium really helped me. And he said, yeah, but I don't think you want to live like that. I know you. You want to be active. You want to be interacting with your family members. And so I don't know that that's going to be the best match for you. Let's see if we can find something else. So as I went to this functional restoration program, I learned about the brain and pain. I learned about neuroplasticity. And if any of you want to read a really good book on neuroplasticity, there's a book called The Brain That Changes Itself. It's by Dr. Norman Doidge. And if somebody can, maybe Alexis can find it on Amazon and put the link there. If not, I can send it to you later. But it's a really good book. And I read that book and I realized that there were some things that I could do to turn this around. So I learned about neuroplasticity, that the brain changes and it has the ability to change. So I didn't tell you the reason for my burning nerve pain. The reason for my burning nerve pain was, it's called a syrinx. And this is not my syrinx. This is a really great picture. So I'm showing it to you, but it's a fluid-filled cyst in the middle of my spinal cord, and it's inoperable. If they were to go in and drain it, they would have to go through healthy spinal tissue. And I've already had to learn how to walk again, and I already have decreased function because of my spinal cord injury. So I made the decision that a surgery was not something that I wanted to have. So this was the cause of all that burning nerve pain. It took a while to figure it out. But once I figured it out, I knew that this was not something that was going to go away. It was going to just be there forever. Another thing I learned while I was at the functional restoration program was I learned about phantom limb pain. And I don't know if any of you know about phantom limb pain, but you can lose a limb and you can still have the pain, because the pain is not necessarily in the limb. It's not caused by tissue damage. It's caused by firing in the brain. These pain signals are firing in the brain, even though you don't have the limb anymore, which is really, really interesting. So in some of my reading, I learned about a researcher named Dr. Ramachandran. And I don't know if any of you know about mirror box therapy, but mirror box therapy is really interesting. And Dr. Ramachandran was working with a young man who had lost an arm in a motorcycle accident. And this arm was up like this in a fist, and it was tight, and it was burning all the time, day and night. It was burning, and he couldn't sleep at night. Even though that arm was gone, this is what it was doing in his brain. And Dr. Ramachandran he came up with this idea to trick the brain. And he developed this thing called the mirror box. And this next slide is a picture of me using a mirror box. You put your bad hand in the one side, and then you put your good hand in the other side, and you turn your head sideways and you look in the mirror. And as you look in the mirror, you are seeing two good hands. And Dr. Ramachandran had this young man look in the mirror. He said, let's see if we can trick your brain. And he said, I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to see your two good hands in the mirror. And the young man said, oh my word, my pain is gone. And Dr. Ramachandran said, I want you to close your eyes. So he closed his eyes and he said, my pain is back. And he said, open your eyes. And he said, oh, my pain is gone. As his brain was seeing these two good hands, it was tricking the brain. And he said, close your eyes, my pain is back. Open your eyes, my pain is gone. He sent this young man home with this mirror box, and he asked him to practice it several times a day. And within 6 months, the young man had rewired this phantom out of his brain by practicing. And what was he doing? He was looking at what was good, what was whole, what was right, what was healthy, instead of focusing on what was wrong. And as I was thinking about all of this in my life, I realized that what I had been doing was focusing on, you'll never be normal, instead of you're going to walk again. I was focusing on the pain. So what does somebody focus on when you have burning nerve pain from the neck down? If you want to focus on what's good, what's right, what's healthy, what's whole, you focus on the neck up. And that's what I had to start learning how to do. After going through the functional restoration program and doing a lot of reading and studying on my own, I was able to get off my medications and start exercising, and I was sleeping at night. Oh, sleep is terrible when you have chronic pain. And I was able to sleep, and I'm still able to sleep. I still have the syrinx, by the way, in case anybody wants to know. I still have the burning nerve pain from the neck down, but the burning nerve pain doesn't have me. It's in the trunk. Remember I said it was driving? It's not driving anymore. And so, because I've learned how to focus on what's good, what's healthy, what's whole, what's right. And for me, that's neck up. For each person, it's something different. And so what I discovered in being at that functional restoration program was that I have a lot of really good support around me. But the 12 people I was in the functional restoration program with, they went back home and they didn't have the support they needed to really make the good behavioral changes that need to be made to do a good, healthy, functional life with chronic pain. And so I started just thinking about what would be helpful to my friends. And with the psychologist that I was working with at that program, I came up with coaching. And I thought that's what people need. They need support. They need tools and support as they try to get out of a deep, dark pit, because that's where I had been. And that's where most of us with chronic pain are when we start, isn't it? So I had to start. I decided to start a program, and I know it was read in my bio, but I call it Take Courage Coaching, and it is that support that people need to really, and the tools to really help people move forward. It gives them the hope and everything they need to we elicit from them that they are able to get out of a really dark place. We've worked with quite a few people with CRPS, and I want to say one of the gals that we worked with, she was just a young gal. She had a surgery on her hand and developed CRPS. She was a college student at the time. She had to drop out of college, and she was very fortunate to be able to start working with a physical therapist who was doing mirror box therapy and a coach at the same time. And it was very short time down the road. I think within 6 months, she was able to have full use of her hand and go back to college and back to her waitressing job. But there have been others that have struggled longer before they get a coach, and they oftentimes use our coaching is usually a full year, and that is because most of the people we work with have had pain for a really long time, and there are lots of things that they need to learn and change to really turn things around, to get that pain in the trunk instead of in the driver's seat. So as I started on focusing on what Dr. Serini said, instead of the you'll never be normal, just doing life started to get to be really, really fun. And I do all kinds of fun things. But I'm sorry, that was the wrong slide there. I do lots of fun things and have a really good functional life. I travel around the United States and I run a company, and I am able to be mom and grandma and wife and really do life. And I'm so grateful that that my doctor said no to the things that I thought would be the most helpful. But instead, he wanted me to have a good, healthy life. So what do we do when we're at that place where we just don't know if we can do this anymore? What kinds of things do we help? What kinds of tools have been helpful for me, helpful for others as they've moved in taking that pain out of the driver's seat? One thing that has been really super helpful for me, and it was really counterintuitive, was exercise. And I know I mentioned that before, but for me, exercise hurt, especially when I first started. I could do 90 seconds on the elliptical. Or no, I wasn't on an elliptical. I was on a bike, and I could do 90 seconds. That was it. And I had to grow from there. But even then, my muscles were sore, and it just seemed like this is not something that is a good thing for me. It makes me hurt worse. So I was just encouraged to know that if I started exercising, that it was going to hurt more. But within 6 months, I'd see really good change. And that's one thing that I want to say is that, years go by. We've worked with people that have been in pain for 23 years, 17 years, 19 years, and years go by, whether we do anything about our pain or not. And so the physical therapists that were working with me, they encouraged me to continue building and continue to work on really getting out of this pit. And so I did. I was really faithful about continuing to exercise. And what I noticed is that by exercising in a good, healthy way, I was able to then sleep at night. If I exercise during the day, then I'm going to get a good night's sleep. I'm going to be able to sleep through this burning nerve pain. And I probably wouldn't have believed someone if they would have told me that I could sleep through this. But there's a few, I also have a few tricks for sleep. I don't know if any of you have trouble sleeping, but it's a very common thing in working with people with chronic pain, that sleep is an issue. And so there's several things that I do to get a good night's sleep. Exercise is one. And another thing that I do is, it's a tool that I have wherever I am. Remember me telling you about that car trip, and every 40 minutes I get out and lay in the grass and cry? Well, I go on lots of trips now. I fly across the country and I drive across the country. I do all kinds of driving, and I'm very functional in that way. And every bump in the road still causes fresh burning. Every bump in the air still causes fresh burning. But I have some tools that I use. And one of them is breathing from the diaphragm. And I remember when I was told that this was going to be something that would be helpful for me, I remember just kind of rolling my eyes. Maybe I didn't really roll my eyes. Maybe I just rolled my eyes inside my brain so that the pain psychologist couldn't see it. But I started practicing, and it did take me a while before I was able to use it as a tool. But now when I breathe from the diaphragm, I can bring my pain from, on a scale of 1 to 10, from an 8 to a 4 with a few breaths from my diaphragm. And that helps me sleep at night. It helps me make it through car trips and airplane trips. And any time I feel myself getting into a flare. And the reason that works for me, and the reason it works for anybody who practices it, is because most of us with chronic pain, we're breathing short and shallow from the chest. We're stressed out. And when we breathe short and shallow from the chest, we're telling our brain that we're being chased by a tiger. We're in fight or flight. And when we're in fight or flight, our brain releases stress hormones, which increases our muscle tension, which increases our pain. That's just a very simple way to explain it. But when we breathe from the diaphragm, we're telling our brain everything's okay. We know that we might have something going on in our body that's telling our brain to fire those pain signals, but we know that it's not killing us. That was one thing that was really helpful for me to learn what I have, even though what I have can be potentially dangerous. And if a syrinx grows, I could become a complete quadriplegic instead of an incomplete. I could lose movement from the neck down if my syrinx grows. There's lots of things that I could worry about, but because I'm not living like that anymore, I don't need to worry about that. I have lots of acceptance around my pain. This is who and what I am right now. And so when I breathe from the diaphragm, I'm telling my brain, I'm reminding my brain, everything is going to be okay. It's all right. And so that is one of my very simple, very simple tools that I love to use. Another tool that I love to use is exercise, breathing helps me sleep. Another tool I like to use is pacing, and I use time-based pacing instead of pain-based pacing. And I'll just explain that to you a little bit. A lot of us who have chronic pain, we use pain-based pacing, and we go until we can't go another minute. And then we're laying in bed for 3 days. And then there's also people that are on the other spectrum that don't go. They just, they lay in their recliner because they don't want to move. And so we're kind of on a spectrum. I'm kind of on the far right spectrum of go until I can't do anymore, and then I'm kind of out of it for a few days. Others are on the other side of the spectrum, and then but what we want to do is we want to be in the middle of that spectrum. We want to make sure that our body has the rest it needs. We want to be pacing, and so we use time instead of pain. So we time ourselves. We use a timer, and we say, okay, how much can I do before I'm, just done in? So standing in the kitchen is hard for me. I love to cook, and so I'll kind of forget about it, and then I get myself so that my back hurts so bad that I can't hardly walk to the chair to rest. And so what I want to do instead is I want to set my timer, and I noticed that at about a half an hour, I'm really hurting. Okay, so the next time I do it, I'm going to cut that time in half. I'm going to do 15 minutes, and a timer's going to go off, and then I'm going to go stretch or lay down for 5 minutes, or maybe walk or do something so that I'm not just standing there. To me, just standing is probably the most painful thing. If I'm moving, I'm much better than if I'm just standing. And I know everybody kind of has their own way of, noticing what it is that can cause a pain flare. So what we encourage people to do is to take that, time themselves for 15 minutes, and then gradually increase that, because you're going to be gradually increasing your strength as you do it. And if you have breaks, you'll actually be able to do way more than if you just ignore your pain until you can't do anymore. So time-based pacing, that was a really important thing for me. And it still is. I still get reminders from my coaches. Sounds like you're not pacing very well. And reminders from my husband, which is, I probably shouldn't have even told them. Not really. It's important for us to have good, healthy support on the other end of things. So using lots of good tools, focusing on what's good, what's right, what's healthy, what's whole, and then giving support. That's what this slide is about here. That's what most of us need as we're climbing that mountain. We just need a hand to hold on to. So let me explain the coaching piece a little bit. So when I first developed Take Courage coaching, I knew I wanted to work with chronic pain, and I knew that people needed more than the 3 weeks that they were getting in the functional restoration program, but I didn't know how long it would take. I went to workers' comp in my state, and I said, I have this idea to give people biopsychosocial tools and to give them support as they climb out of this pit of pain. And they said, that sounds like a great idea. We would love to have you work with our patients. And so we started working with people. And like I said earlier, really, they gave us their really old cases. So people who had been in pain for years and years and years. And they gave us those patients, and we started working with them. We started giving them the tools they needed to get out of this pit of pain. And it was really working well. People were able to get off their meds. They were able to go back to work and start exercising. And they would say things to us like, you saved my marriage. And pain really affects everything in our life, doesn't it? Not just, it's not just our body, but all of our relationships and our ability to work and our ability to concentrate and all of those things. And they were noticing big changes. And I thought this would probably be a 3 to 6 month program. But what we discovered is that when people have that support for a full year, it was really making huge changes for people. And so we decided that we were going to make it a full year, and people meet with their coach once a week. They have a half an hour session where they talk to their coach about their own individual issues. Some people aren't sleeping, or there's all kinds of different areas in our different tools that they say, oh yeah, that's one I need to really work on. And so they work with their coach for a half an hour once a week, and then they have a group once a week. And in this group, it's just been fantastic because it's telephonic. We have people from all over the country. And so a group might include a low back patient from Wisconsin, a veteran from Oklahoma. It might include a CRPS patient from Washington. And, so it's going to have a variety of people in it. And as you join that group, a lot of times, just like this group that you have going here, you find out you're not alone. There's other people that are struggling with this. And we had a VA contract for 7 years, and it has just been canceled due to COVID and lack of funds due to COVID. But I am very hopeful that it will go again, because it was very, very successful. But that was the thing that we heard from a lot of veterans, that and really from anybody with chronic pain, is I thought I was the only one. And you have this group of 5 or 6 people, and you're seeing progress in other people. You're hearing other people talk about what they've tried and what's working for them, and maybe you're discouraged. And it's just really encouraging to people to have that camaraderie with their group. Some groups exercise together. They FaceTime with each other. Every group is different, but it's been really, really fun and very rewarding to see people just really get their lives back and able to be functioning in a good, healthy way. One of the people that we were working with, he had been in pain for 17 years, and he was told by a doctor right from the very beginning that he wasn't able to exercise, and that exercise could really make him worse. And so when him and I got to the exercise lesson, he told me, he said, I can't exercise. And so I said, okay, well, so maybe you should talk to your doctor and see if there's anything that, because movement is going to really help you. It'll help you with sleep. And he had been telling me that he wanted to increase his strength, but he didn't know what to do because his doctor had told him that he couldn't exercise. And so, as coaches, we elicit from the client what they want. We don't tell them what to do. So we wouldn't say, well, you need to get exercising. As a coach, we would say, what do you want? And he said, well, I would like to increase my strength. So we went back to his doctor, and this, of course, was a different doctor because this had been years ago. And the doctor said, oh, no, you should be exercising. He said, I think the best thing for you to do would be to swim. That would be a really good exercise for you. It's low impact, and I think that would be good. And so he came back to me and he told me, well, swimming is okay for me, but there's only 2 pools in town, and there's only 1 pool in town that is warm enough for me to swim in without feeling discomfort. And I'm not going to that place. That's where all the rich, skinny people go to work out, and there's no way I'm going there. So I said, okay, I was just listening to him, and I said, okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that. Why are you feeling that way? And he said, well, he said, if I went, then, they would definitely make fun of me. He said, you haven't seen me, so you have no idea. And I said, well, you're right. I haven't seen you. What do you think they would make fun of you about? And he said, well, I'm 400 pounds. And he said, they would probably just think, oh, if I looked like that, I'd never go out of the house. And, he had this whole big long list of reasons why he didn't think that this was a good idea, and what people would be thinking about him and saying about him if he were to go to the pool. So I just said, well, is it okay if I tell you what I think when I see somebody like you at the pool? And he said, yeah, sure. And so I told him, I said, most of my rehab was done in a pool, and I would get all my swimming stuff together. Sometimes my husband would go with me. Sometimes my 7-year-old daughter would go with me, and we'd go to the pool, and I would have to clear out in the parking lot because all the exercisers were wanting to be right at the front. And I'd have to walk through the parking lot, which was really difficult for me at the time, and all the way back to the dressing rooms, into the pool, change out of my clothes, into my swimming suit. By the time I got to the pool, I was exhausted. And then I would start doing my exercises. It was hard. It was really, really hard. And then I would have to change. My daughter would have to help me change. And then I have to go all the way back to my car and drive home. And I was just completely exhausted. And I said, when I see someone like you at the pool, I know the effort that it takes. And I think you're brave. And he started crying and he said, so you're saying you think I'm brave? And I said, yes, I think you're brave. So he started going to the pool. He went, first of all, once a week, then it was twice a week. And he was really gaining strength and he loved it. He just loved it. He would visit with people at the pool and pretty soon he was going every day. And one day we had our coaching session and he said, well, it happened. And I said, what happened? And he said, remember what I told you that people were going to say about me? They said it. I was getting changed and there was about 4 guys on the other side of the wall. And they were saying things like, did you see that great big fat guy? Yeah, I saw him. If I looked like that, I'd never go out of the house. And they started just tearing him down. And he got really super angry. And he decided once he got his clothes on, he was going to go over and tell him what he thought. Got his clothes on, he went over to the other side of the wall, and they looked up and they saw him and their eyes were big. And all he could think of to say was, do you know why I'm here? And they all just looked at him. And he said, I'm here because Becky says I'm brave. And he turned around and walked off. And one of the guys whispered, who the hell is Becky? He had the support he needed. And he continued to go to the pool. And the next day when he was in there, those guys came up and they apologized to him. And they told him that they were so sorry that they had acted like that. And they actually became friends. They became part of his support system. He had the support of a coach to make the changes that he needed to make. And those changes were strong enough to keep him on course, even when things were discouraging. And that's the whole point of coaching. It's to give that support where we need it. Chronic pain is a really difficult thing, and it's difficult because a lot of times we have it's all we have to think about. You remember me talking about breathing and what happens when we breathe short and shallow from the chest. A lot of us, along with that breathing short and shallow from the chest, are having a lot of thoughts about our pain. Like these were some of the thoughts that I have, so I can just throw some out there. I can't stand this pain one more second. Nobody should have to live with this pain. I have the worst pain known to man. All of those kind of thoughts, when we have a stressful thought like that, a negative thought, our brain releases stress hormones, which causes our body to increase our muscle tension. And when that happens, we have that increase in pain, and it's just this downward spiral, isn't it? And so what we want is we want to go the other direction. What we don't use, we lose. Just like that language that you learned in high school, pain can become like that. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be our complete focus. I talk about pain because it's what I do for a living now. I run my company and I speak at different places on chronic pain. So I talk about my pain in that way, but most people don't even know that I have chronic pain unless they've heard me speak, or unless they ask me specifically a question. Hey, I heard that you help people with chronic pain. They don't know I have chronic pain. It's not on my face. It's not on my body. I am focusing on what's good, what's right, what's healthy, what's whole. And that's what we as coaches are wanting to help people with, is to help them turn that chronic pain around. So we ask a question when we're coaching. We ask the question, tell me what went well this last week. And when we ask that question, you know, that's not a question that you get asked by doctors or friends or family. Most of the time, people ask you, how's your pain? And by the way, I told you my story. Everybody was so focused on it. And when I came back with all the knowledge about pain and neuroplasticity and focus, what we focus on, we empower and enlarge, I had to ask my family to stop asking me about pain. I remember asking my mom, who was especially concerned about my pain, Mom, please don't ask me about my pain anymore. I'm trying to focus on what went well this week. And I remember her saying, I can never ask you about pain. And I said, oh, you can ask me once a year. So anyway, she asks me once a year. She truly does. Sometimes she'll ask my family members, how's Becky doing? Is she doing okay? But when we ask that question of ourselves or of someone else, maybe someone that, it changes the focus from all the things that are wrong, because man, do I have a lot of stuff wrong, all the stuff going on from the neck down. It's very noisy, but I have so many wonderful things going on in my life. I have a good family. I have a good job. I have a good life. The leaves in Utah were so beautiful this year. I have the ability to walk. I almost didn't. There's many, many things. And I know that not everyone has a supportive family. Not everyone has the things that I have. Maybe the things that you have are different than the things I have. But starting from the place of let's think about what's going well, and turning that pain focus into a neck up focus, from you'll never be normal to you're going to walk again. It's just choosing what we're going to focus on. So there are 116 million people in the United States with chronic pain. And I don't know the exact numbers for CRPS, but I know there's many people in the United States with chronic pain and CRPS. And there's something that can be done about it. And that is my goal. That is my dream, is that every single person would have the support and the tools they would need to be able to live a good, functional, healthy life. This is a little short video here of me hiking up a mountain in Bozeman, Montana. And I'm very, very grateful for the function I have, for the life I get to have, and for the purpose I get to have in helping others find that functionality. I want to leave a few minutes here in case there's someone that has, is there anybody that has any comments or questions for me? I would love to answer those.
Well, all righty. I'm gonna see if Jim can pop back on anytime. We do have a lot of people in the comments sharing. Everyone is loving the presentation. We even see a member of your team is in the comments as well. There's a lot of sharing of different procedures and things that people have done that have been helpful. Trying to see if Jim.
Let's stop my video.
Oh, I will fix that in a moment. But Jim, I guess I'll start with you. Do you have any questions or anything you want to ask Becky?
A couple things. First of all, I wanted to know if I remember correctly, it was a workers' comp accident you Was it work-related? Is that why the functional restoration program was funded?
Yes, that is right.
And the other thing I was wondering about, the mirror therapy is fabulous, but did you have to do any homework beforehand? The graded motor imaging, the recognize, look at the left and right, or you just went right into it?
I didn't have any access to that.
Mhm.
This was really before, well, I know about it now, but this is before that. And my husband just made that mirror box for me. And so we heard about it. I read about it online, and yeah, it was wonderful.
First of all, I should have thanked you for your presentation. Great number of tools that you've given us, and I think it's fabulous. The problem we all face is cost. And
Right.
have any private insurers paid for your program?
We have had a few private insurers that have paid for it. Workers' comp pays for it on a regular basis. I think 166 companies in all 46 states. Medicaid waiver in the state of Montana, that's kind of a complicated one, but that has paid for it. And then we have some good pricing for self-pay right now, so they can get online and choose. It's kind of an abbreviated program where we don't have any admin involved at all. They just go in and they pay for it, and then they get the calendar for their coaches, and they schedule it. So
I think that's great. I mean, we've talked about that. We would love to raise some money and send some people. So, I mean, it just has really fortified that desire in my heart to do that, because it works. It can work. It does.
Yeah. It's amazing what happens when we have the support we need, because a lot of times there's a lot of need for changing how we think about pain. And, there was for me anyway. And I had good support, but I sure could have used a coach as well. So.
Well, again, thank you. Alexis, anything that you want to bring up?
Yes, so we do have a question from Diane, who asks, how do you handle the stress of pain?
That is a really good question, and I'm going to just bring it back to having a good night's sleep, getting enough exercise, breathing from the diaphragm. It is stressful, and I've had to adapt a lot of things in my life, and that has been hard for me. I'm a very driven person, and so it's been hard for me to do things slower, to get more sleep, to stop when I start feeling too stressed. But pain is a stressor, and so I do lots of self-care that I probably, I'm still at the age where I probably still would have been hard driven, and I don't usually make appointments before 9 or 9:30 in the morning, because I get up and I have all kinds of things for my self-care that are necessary for me.
Becky, how do people get in touch with you?
Becky at Take Courage Coaching, BECKY at Take Courage Coaching. And I'm happy to call and talk to anybody. If they want to send me a phone number, I'm happy to call and have a conversation.
Do you have the ability to provide letters that they could try to get the medical necessary documentation for their insurance?
Yes.
Good. Wonderful.
That's awesome. And so I want to really, I guess, go back to Jim's question about payment. Sorry, I was reading some other questions, so hopefully I did not miss this. Someone else also asked, is Medicare an option for your program? Hopefully I didn't miss that.
No, not at this time, but we hope that it will be soon. We are nationally certified health and wellness coaches, and there are CBT codes being tested right now. And we hope to have that through in the next couple years. They are fast tracking it because they know that coaching works. And so it's very exciting. When I started this 13 years ago, there were no standards for coaches. And so we now, Take Courage Coaching has a certified health and wellness coaching school that focuses on pain. That could be something exciting for some of your members that want to maybe do a job from home in helping people that have the same struggles that they do. That might be something, but like that's 4 years old. So it's been growing as we've been doing this, and it's really exciting to see what has happened in the world of health and wellness coaching.
I think that's great. And are you optimistic that the Veterans Administration will pick up your business again?
I am optimistic.
It's
Very,
just
very optimistic.
because with the new CDC guidelines, so often that they're saying, well, you do this, do that, but no one's paying for it. And
Right.
it's that,
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty frustrating, isn't it?
Terribly. It is.
Yeah. Working on it.
Good.
Any other questions, Jim?
I think it's fabulous. I think we need to edit this quickly.
Definitely.
And Becky, thank you so much for being there for us, and we'll dialogue because you're a valuable resource out there in the community for our community and other communities.
Thank you very much, Jim. I love being a part of this, and I love what you guys are doing to provide support to people so they don't feel alone. That's a really difficult place to be.
So often they don't have support at all, and so often lives end in divorce and losing jobs, and the grieving is so strong.
Yes.
Definitely. We already have a few people in the comments saying that they are interested in becoming a certified coach. So you are
Nice.
definitely going to get some emails after this.
That would be great. It's a wonderful, very rewarding job to be able to work one-on-one with people. You know, one nice thing about a coach is the coach is not in a hurry. Every other appointment you go to, they're in a hurry. And to have somebody that is just there and there and there, and, you know, for a whole year, to really make sure that the behavior change has happened is fantastic for people. And to be a part of that is just, you know, it's just so exciting when you start with a new client that's sad and hopeless and depressed, and like you said, Jim, has lost their job and lost their husband or wife or whatever, and just to know that if this person makes a decision to go through with this, that by the end of the year, that's all reversed. I'm not saying they're going to get their wife back or they're going to get their husband back, but they get their life back. And just that, it's so fun to know that at the beginning of the year, where they start is not where they're going to end. So it's.
Well, again, I saw a lot of veterans on the chat. Happy Veterans Day tomorrow. And,
Yes.
and Becky, thank you. And we will put up your information about contacting you. So get ready.
Thank you, Jim.
Definitely. And if you're still watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching recording, do not end yet. We have a couple of announcements. I definitely wanted to repeat a few of the announcements that Jim mentioned earlier. So of course it is CRPS Awareness Month. And so for CRPS Awareness Month, we are doing something special. We are asking all of our warriors, as many of you as possible, to record a 3-minute video that we can share across our social media channels. I just posted one from Megan. It's already right in the Facebook chat. And I'll be sure to, of course, post it into the YouTube caption so that you all can see an example of a video. We're definitely getting a lot of questions about when they're due and, all of that. So definitely try to get them to us by Thanksgiving. And if you have any questions, of course, send us a message. And we are also creating a memorial page on our website to highlight CRPS warriors that we have lost over the years. So if you have a loved one that you would like to add to this page, please send us a message and I will give you the information for that. But once again, Becky, thank you again for this amazing presentation. As always, we will have this video pinned to the top of our Facebook timeline for easy access if you want to rewatch it. And we will also add it to our YouTube channel. We are also getting ready for our last Facebook Live of the year, which will be in December. So we're going to take a break for the rest of the month of November, but we will come back in December. We will also add a link to the presentation to our website as well. Now, as always, if you have any questions for us, if you need a support group, if you're looking for a new physician, or if you want to tell your story for the RSDSA blog, please send us an email at info@rsds.org. All righty. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Jim.
Pleasure.